Hello, folks, and welcome back to The Slice, and welcome back to Wimbledon. The most prestigious tournament on the ATP Tour is here, and the draw has come out, and The Slice is going to break it down on this show. We're going to talk about why Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic should be very happy with their draws, and why Nadal and his fans should be pretty worried and pretty upset, I would say, about the draw and how it went down. So let's take a deep look at this thing and get into the biggest matchups in the early rounds and the potential quarterfinal matchups at this year's Wimbledon.
Welcome to The Slice.
Welcome to The Slice.
Welcome to The Slice.
All right, folks, thanks for tuning in. How are you? Just checking in with you. If you missed it, if you haven't checked it out yet, The Slice Front Row, the show that happens every second week, the super in-detail, you're involved show, happened yesterday. And it just got posted today, and it was awesome. Answered a lot of questions, and we got into the big controversy surrounding the Wimbledon seeding this year, as it's been brought up again. So check that out in the link below, and then you can help support The Slice and this type of coverage of tennis. So the Wimbledon draw is out, and it's exciting as always at any major because all the big boys are here and they're ready to rock and roll. We're just going to take a look at what I like to do normally, start with the potential quarterfinal matchups because it shows how the players seeded and where they're at, whose half is in whose half is everyone on, and stuff like that. But right off the top four seeds at this year's Wimbledon are number 1, Novak Djokovic, number 2, Roger Federer, number 3, Rafael Nadal, and number 4, Kevin Anderson. And if you're new or you just didn't hear about the seeding, you might be like, wait, that's not the top 4 players in that world in tennis. You would be right, because Wimbledon has a unique draw system where it takes into account last year's Wimbledon and some of the other grass court tournaments, and the year before that in like a lesser way. So it's very complex. I broke it down a lot more on the Slice Front Row, but basically you add up all the points that you have at June 24th of this year, and you add your points from Wimbledon last year, and you add 75% of the points from the year before that. So the reason Federer jumped ahead of Nadal is that Federer would have added 75% of his 2,000 points he got in 2017 Wimbledon from winning it, and then his 100% of his points from last year. And I guess that might include Halle that he played both those years. But anyway, regardless, that put him ahead of Nadal. So Nadal fans are mad. Nadal said he said in an interview that it was a disrespectful seeding system. And to be fair, Nadal, I'm not a fan of that system either. I think keeping the ATP World Rank as the seeds unifies the whole year and makes it so that, if you haven't played well in a certain part of the year, it affects your draw at Wimbledon rather than you just having a protected seating. That's just my opinion on it. I get more into it on the Slice Front Row. But what do you think about the draw system at Wimbledon? I got absolutely roasted for not being well read on it last time, but I am now. And I'm like, that seems a little bit shady. I don't know. But it also kind of keeps the best grass court players with the better seeds, I guess, so we see them later on in the tournament. I don't know, but I don't know what the reasoning is for that. But I think it's a little bit weird. So let's take a look at the potential quarterfinal matchups. On the top, we have Djokovic as the number 1 seed playing Tsitsipas, the number 7 seed. And then we would have Kevin Anderson, the Eagle, friend of the show. You saw him say, welcome to The Slice earlier. Isn't that pretty cool? Kevin Anderson versus Alexander Zverev in the second quarterfinal matchup. That's the number 4 seed versus the number 6 seed. And then we got on the bottom half, Dominic Thiem, number 5 seed versus Rafael Nadal, number 3 seed. The two clay court beasts playing each other on grass. That'd be interesting to see. I doubt that it's going to actually end up happening that way for different reasons, which I'll get into. And then the last quarterfinal matchup we would have is Nishikori, number 8 versus Federer, number 2. So that's the potential quarterfinal matchups, but I almost guarantee you it's not going to happen. I think that Wimbledon has almost the most upsets, and I just think that there's no way that these 8 guys will make it to this stage. If that happened, I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket because that would be very, very weird, I think, because some of these guys have not proven themselves on grass at all, mostly talking about Thiem and Zverev and Tsitsipas, really, and Nishikori. Yeah, so basically everyone other than the top 4 seeds haven't really proved themselves that much on grass. So maybe it's fair enough that those are the top 4 seeds: Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, Kevin Anderson, the Eagle. So looking at the draws of the top 3 guys, the big 3, we're going to start with Djokovic. And we're going to break it down, Federer and then Nadal, and I'll tell you who has the toughest draw. I kind of already did in the preview. But what does Djokovic just look like? Well, he's got an early test from his old friend Philip Kohlschreiber. I don't think Djokovic will be too stoked about that because Kohlschreiber beat him at Indian Wells, and he's been a tough player. Kohlschreiber's had upsets at Wimbledon before, and he's a good grass court player. That's his first round. Djokovic hasn't had a lot of prep. He had prep at the Boodles Challenge where he lost the match to Denis Shapovalov. So he's not feeling too great about that first round match. So I think if he can get a clean win there, he'll get some good rhythm, and then he should float through the next couple of rounds because he doesn't have anyone too tough until the potential fourth round where he can play Felix Auger-Aliassime, Grigor Dimitrov, or Lamonf, Gael Monfils. So that could be a tougher round for sure for him. But I've seen when Djokovic or any of the big three get rolling from the beginning of a tournament, in the fourth round quarterfinals, they're extremely hard to beat, and they very rarely ever lose there. So it's not like I would say a huge upset alert for him in any of these matches, but it isn't the easiest start with Kohlschreiber, and then the fourth round is where it really starts to get tough for Djokovic. In the quarterfinals, he could basically meet Tsitsipas, which I would definitely put Djokovic as the favorite on that, especially on grass. And then in the semifinals, he could play either Raonic or Anderson, a couple big hitters, guys who've done very well, made the final of Wimbledon before. So Djokovic, I would say, is on the favorite half for him. He doesn't have to play Nadal or Federer before the final. So Djokovic camp, tough draw, obviously, because it's a Wimbledon draw, but out of the big three, it's one of the easier ones, and he's going to be feeling pretty good about it as the defending champion. Federer, in the first round, plays a guy named Luke Harris, if I'm not mistaken, from South Africa. Never heard of the guy. Probably a friend of Kevin Anderson's, but Federer's probably read up on him. But we should not expect any problems from him in the first or second round. The first real tough player that Federer's going to have to play is Luca Pouille, who is a tough player but hasn't shown himself too much on grass to be a threat. Definitely not to the king of grass, I wouldn't say. In the fourth round, he can play Coric or Schwartzman. Now, Coric could be tough. Coric beat him last year in the final of Halle, if I'm not mistaken. And Coric has had his number in a few different matches before. So Coric has been a tough player for him. He moves well. He's young. He's fiery, and he absorbs pace extremely well. And he's a good counterpuncher. So Federer, that's a tough match, but that is the fourth round, so you expect a tough match. And Federer steps up to those, especially at Wimbledon. So I wouldn't be too worried. So that is the fourth round. Quarterfinals, he's either going to see Nishikori, shouldn't be a problem. After my little rant on Nishikori's performance in the quarterfinals of the French Open, or Isner. Nishikori or Isner. Isner would be tough. If he gets to that far in the tournament to the quarterfinals, he's going to be rolling, and it'll be hard to stop. And then in the semifinals, it's Nadal or Cilic or some other guy. Nadal obviously would be tough. If Nadal gets to the semifinals, which he's got a very tough draw, he'll be rolling, and then we'll have another classic on our hands, I think. It'd be pretty cool to see at the French Open, we had Federer. Now we'll have Wimbledon Federer. Both when we thought probably 10 years ago, we would never see it this late in their careers playing at this level. Still two of the top three best players in the world. So that's Federer's quarter. As the second seed, I think he got a more favorable draw. It's not looking too tough for him until really, I would say, the semifinals. Like if he gets a hot Isner in the quarterfinals, that could be tough, or a hot Coric, that could be tough. But you're never going to get to the semifinals or final without having to beat some extremely quality players at Wimbledon. Oh, then Federer, a weak era theory is like, yeah, he didn't have to play anyone tough until 2007. We'll get into that at some video. We will get into some video. I've been thinking about the weak era theory, and I have a massive rebuttal for it. And I can't wait to enlighten all of you haters and doubters of Federer's 20 Grand Slam count in that video. So anyways, that's Federer's quarter. And then we go to Nadal's quarter, and in my opinion, this is the toughest one out of the big three. He starts off pretty easy with Seguida, but then right into the second round, he's either got Nick Kyrgios or Jordan Thompson. Probably Nick Kyrgios, and that's not good because if you remember, Nick Kyrgios did upset Nadal very early on in one of the, I think if I'm not mistaken, it was the 2013 Wimbledon. Might be wrong on that. You can roast me if I am. So that's a tough match for Nadal. Because Kyrgios doesn't love Nadal. We've known that. And he's had his number in the last few matches. I watched him beat him at Cincinnati in 2017. He already beat him earlier this year in Acapulco. And they had some words for each other. So that's going to be a hit match. And even though Kyrgios doesn't seem to care about tennis anymore, I'm sure he cares about beating a rival. And not that Nadal and Kyrgios are really a rival, like on the same level. Don't relax, Nadal fans. But I'm just saying, Kyrgios loves stepping up to the big stage to be a player who he sees as a nemesis, and I think he sees that in Nadal. So he'll be pumped up for that if he doesn't get tripped up by his compatriot, Jordan Thompson. In the third round, then, if Nadal gets through that, he has to play either Denis Shapovalov or Jo-Wilfried Tsonga. Tsonga looks like he's getting a little bit of mojo back. He played very well against Federer in Halle, and Shapo's played well in the Boodles tournament, beating Djokovic and Fognini and Berdych. So again, third round, super tough for Nadal if it works out like that. And then in the fourth round, he'll either play Cilic, who made the final in 2017, or Basilashvili, who's a great player. Not sure how good he is on grass, but Cilic would be insanely tough for a fourth round player. And then the quarterfinals, it seems to actually relax a little bit for him because he'd either play, if the draw worked out how it should, Thiem or Fognini. Neither of those guys are grass court specialists, and I would give Nadal definitely the go-ahead in that match if Nadal and them got to that level. And then he'd obviously play Federer in the semifinals. So I would say Nadal has a very tough draw. It's tough for him, and I think that his fans have a right to be a little bit pissed off about him being the third seed when he's ahead of Federer in the world rankings by about 1,000 points right now. So let me know what you think about that, Nadal fans. Don't get too savage in the comments section below. What do you think about the seeds at Wimbledon for your boy Nadal? Because I understand why you'd be frustrated. I probably would be too. But since I pull for Federer, I'm pretty stoked on this draw for him. So another point is Nadal, Federer in the same half of the draw again. I already touched on it. We could have Nadal again. I think it would be the 40th matchup. Nice round number. And they could maybe end their playing rivalry at Wimbledon because we don't know how much longer we're going to have these guys, but it's awesome to see again. And yeah, I've been harping on the big three as how amazing it is that they're still the ones dominating this game. And Wimbledon 2019 is just another chance to see them do their thing. So, and then Djokovic already talked a bit about his early test with Kohlschreiber. I'm not calling for an upset, but it is going to be tough probably unless Kohlschreiber really doesn't show up or Djokovic doesn't show up and then Kohlschreiber 1 and 3. That would be crazy, wouldn't it? Not going to happen, but it'll be a test for him early to see Djokovic's level. Now, let's get into a few dark horses at this tournament for me. I got 3. The biggest one for me is Nick Kyrgios. He's dropped out of the seeding players with his rank, and he's been doing whatever he's doing. We don't even know. We just see him on Instagram. But like I said, the things we know about Nick Kyrgios is he likes playing on the big stage, and he likes beating the big 3 players. He's beaten all 3 of them. And Nadal is, I would say, his favorite to beat, maybe Djokovic. He's had more choice words for Djokovic lately than Nadal, but Nadal in the second round seems like a juicy thing for Kyrgios to get pumped up to, and he's very good on grass, obviously, with his massive serve. So that will be he's a dark horse, I think. And then that quarter of the draw is a bit soft. If Nadal goes out, that quarter of the draw is wide open. Wide open. The next one is Querrey. He plays Dominic Thiem in the first round, and Thiem is no hero on grass, and Querrey beat Nadal in 2017 at Wimbledon, and he's a great grass court player, big server, big hitter. He hasn't done much for the last year. I literally have not heard any news about him at all, but this could be a time for him to come back and show some of his old man grass court skills and take out Dominic Thiem and then make a run up where Thiem should be going up, that part of the draw. So that's another dark horse for me. And the third one is El Chapo, Denis Shapovalov from Canada. I think that he's going to have a good tournament. I watched the highlights of him playing at the Boodles, and he looked great. It's not a fluke. Even though it's a challenge, I know it doesn't mean count for any points. Beating Novak Djokovic, Thomas Berdych, and Fognini, those are 3 great players. Berdych and Djokovic being great grass court players. Doesn't matter if it's at an exhibition, it's still high quality tennis. And I'm saying that Shapovalov looked good. And he won Junior Wimbledon, if you didn't know that. So he's made it, in a sense, to the ends of this tournament, and he's won on the biggest stage at Wimbledon. So I think he could be another dark horse. And again, he's in that same Nadal's quarter of the draw, where if Nadal goes out early, not that I'm calling for it, but he is out of the big 3, is on the most upset alert for sure. Then if Nadal goes out, that quarter of the draw is very juicy. So those are my dark horses for this tournament: Kyrgios, Querrey, and Shapovalov. Who are your dark horses? Who are some guys that you see that aren't being talked about who could make a deep run? Dan Evans, friend of the show, Dan Evans. Who knows? All I know is I'm extremely excited for this tournament. I love Wimbledon. I love the fast-paced style games, and I just love the swag about the tournament. Everyone's wearing white. We'll have a style watch coming up very shortly here on The Slice. And again, check out The Slice Front Row if you want to hear more about the seeding controversies, how it worked out, and more of my thoughts on it. check that out. And you can also support the Slice so we can keep bringing you the best coverage of tennis in the world. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and welcome to Wimbledon and the Slice's coverage of this amazing tournament. We'll see you very shortly. Thanks for tuning in, folks. This has been the Slice. Click down here, this green button, to subscribe to the show. Never miss one of these. Click here to watch another video, and click here to join the front row, which is the best tennis community on the internet right now. And you get to decide what we talk about on the Slice front row. Thanks, guys.